So, welcome everybody to this week's talk on accelerating progress in your business. And I've chosen that name very, very specifically. Why progress and not growth? Because I've given a couple of talks. If any of you have been in the sessions that I did with the Growth Academy, with Nick Wilshire back end of last year, we had this similar idea of what I'm going to be talking to you about now, of how you accelerate, going faster in your business. And really, a lot of the progress you're going to be wanting to make is growth. But I have been incredibly frustrated with my own growth, or our growth as a business, over the last 2 or 3 years. And really, this is starting to change the way I think about business growth, and actually what the point of growing a business is. And where I've landed on that is that progress is the thing that you really want to be focusing on. Growth may happen as a result of progress, but growth isn't always totally in your control. And if you're like me and you feel like you're a temporarily embarrassed millionaire, that lack of growth at the rate at which you want it can become incredibly frustrating. And that frustration is dangerous, right? There is a danger in wanting to grow your business too fast in a way that's not sustainable, in a way that makes, if you're anything like me, makes you do incredibly risky things to grow your business. And, Jack works here at Yuzu. We have our monthly strategy meetings, and I think there has been some times in the last 12 months in this pursuit of growth for all else that I have probably put the business in places where we're at risk of going bust, or we're at risk of being taken out of business. Luckily for us, those risks have paid off so far. But here's where my thinking has started to develop. This year, I'm trying to grow up a little bit and say, actually, being 100% risk on all of the time is not a good idea for your business, because the only way that you actually lose in business, I fundamentally believe, is if that you stop playing the game. If you stop trying to make progress, learn more, do more, be better. If you stop and never pick yourself back up, that's the only way to lose. And this impatience for growth can cause you to put yourself into positions in which you allow yourself to take a risk that maybe is a bit too big, that if it didn't go right, would destroy the business and maybe would take you out of the game for a while, if not forever. If you're so scarred by that experience, that can be super dangerous. So I want to change the language to progress, because as long as you are making progress, you are doing the right thing. And sometimes that progress will be really fast. And sometimes that progress will take you 6 months and it feels like walking through a swamp. But as long as you are handling what is in your wheelhouse, what is in your control, and you are trying to do better, be better, then you're making progress, and actually then you're doing the right thing, you are winning, and one day that will pay off. This also reminded me of a story that I got told so many times in university when I was studying illustration. And it's about a ceramics class experiment that they did. I don't know whether this is a real experiment that was ever run. I can't cite any studies here that prove this to be true. I'm sure if I went digging for it a little bit deeper, I may be able to find something. But the story goes like this. They take this ceramics class, obviously making pots or like ornaments, that kind of stuff. And they split it in two. And for one half of the class, they say, you have 1 year to make the perfect pot. All we want you to do is plan, think, design, and then at the end of the year, when you've done all of the preparation, make one pot that's so good, it encapsulates all of your knowledge, all of your thinking, all of your strategy, in such a way that when you submit it to us for grading, you should be getting the top mark in the class, because it should be of such a higher quality than the rest of the classes. The other 50% of the class was told to just make as many pots as they possibly could through the course of the year. Don't think about it too hard. put something out there, get feedback on it, keep making. And at least what they told us, and what I believe to be true from what I've seen in the way that we build products here at Yuzu, is that the 50% of the class that was prolific, not trying to be perfect, that is to say, they were producing as many pots as possible, they got way higher grades in their ceramics class because they had the benefit of experience, they had the benefit of being able to learn from what they were doing and have feedback on what they were doing and make changes, and therefore they progressed at a faster rate than those who tried to perfect what they were doing all at once, worry about what they were doing and making it as good as possible instead of just trying to make progress. And I think this story encapsulates what I'm trying to say to you here today, which is to say, if you want to accelerate the progress in your business, maybe that's to grow, maybe that's to make more money, maybe that's to do better things for your clients, get them better outcomes. If you want to make progress, stop trying to be a perfectionist, get out of your own way, put things in practice, into the market, into your customers' hands, wherever it needs to go. Just get it out of your head, do it, and then learn from that experience of doing. And this ability that you're able to cultivate, because I think this is a muscle that you can train, right? Your ability to get out of your own way and just put something out there and then iterate on it, I think is one of the biggest predictors of the rate of progress you will make in your business. There are people in this room today that I've had conversations with where we know that there is something that they need to do in their business, but they have been sat there for 3 months, 4 months, trying to perfect it, and therefore they've made no progress in that 3 or 4 months. And instead, if they'd have just held their nose, got something that they may be a little bit embarrassed about out there, they would have had the opportunity to make that progress. So I want you to think about this idea of being the person who makes 1,000 pots rather than trying to make the one perfect pot in your business, because it isn't, that's just not how progress works. Progress is messy. But what should you be progressing? Because this is the other area that I see people really falling by the wayside in that there's so much you can do in a business, and there's so much that sounds like a great idea. There's so much that is fun and exciting, but really there's only a few things that you should be focusing on for the things that you're doing in your business to make progress, right? You should be focused on creating things that either up the number of customers that you have, allow you to serve more customers, allow you to have more, and we've talked about this loads, happy paying customers within your business, or things that allow you to earn a higher level of lifetime gross profit from those customers. So we talked last week around the idea that you should limit the amount of customers that you've got in your business. This is how you can increase your prices, right? And this is a choice that you can make. You can actually say, well, we're going to focus on the progress we want to make is I want to be able to close 100 more customers this year. And therefore, we're going to create new lead magnets. And the progress in our business that I really want to start measuring is how many leads do we get? How many customers are we closing? Are those systems and processes doing a good enough job to meet the objectives that we have? Conversely, you might say, well, actually, we close quite a lot of customers, but the profit margin on that entire relationship with the customer is low. Maybe you only have a one-time product. So they come into the front door of your company and they say, I want to buy that £10,000 high ticket service from you. You do that for them, you deliver that, and then off they go, never to be seen again. And maybe then the progress you want to make in your business would be creating a new product or service that happens on the back end of that transaction that would allow you to earn recurring revenue. It might be that the progress you want to make is to have less customers and charge them twice as much. And so in doing so, upping the lifetime gross profit per customer. The third thing I want you to think about is if it's not one of those two things directly, if it's not going to give you more customers, if it's not going to allow you to have more leads, if it's not going to allow you to earn more money over the lifetime of that relationship with the customer, then the third thing that you can concentrate on in terms of the progress in your business is system resilience. And what I mean by this is putting things in place that allow or de-risk your acquisition of customers being destroyed by something happening going wrong within your business, or de-risk the amount of profit per customer that you're generating in your business. So this might look like currently you're in charge of all outreach to customers. So you are the person in your business who gets introduced to new customers. You are the one who does all the sales conversations. You are the one who's in charge of closing them, sending the contracts, all of this stuff. It's all on you. So there's a huge system risk in your business there, because it's a really horrible term, but it illustrates the point, I think, really well. In tech teams, we would call this the busability of the team. If that member of the team was to be run over by a bus on the way to work, how alive and well would the company be? And if that busability metric gets too high in favor of one person, we need to start creating systems and processes around that person to say they might be hit by the bus, but the company's fine. And yeah, it's a bit of an unempathetic way to think, but this is what I mean by systems resilience. Is you can't be the person in charge of all of these things forever. It's okay for now, but over time, the progress in your business should also make your business more resilient, which means systems, processes. It might mean contractors. It might mean outside suppliers. It might mean hiring staff to take some responsibility from you. And that is another form of progress you can make that I think is really worth you thinking about. If what you're doing in terms of the major progress you're trying to make in your business isn't doing one of these three things, I think we might be focusing on the wrong things within your business. And this will lead, if we go back to that impatience, this will lead to that frustration. This will lead to that feeling that real progress hasn't been made because you're still busy as hell fulfilling all of the customers you've got, but not making a whole lot of money from it, or any other number of problems that a lack of great progress against any of these metrics will give you in your business. Let's say you get sick, but you've got staff members who are in charge of executing some of those, like the things that you're tracking within Trello. If that's all on paper, suddenly there's a huge system resilience risk within your business that you should be addressing, because if you're taken out of the loop for whatever reason, all progress in your business stops. All progress in your business stops. So anytime you can stop being the bottleneck, which again is really what system resilience is about, it's a good thing for you to be focusing on within your business. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something called accountability sprints a bit later in this session, which that would be a great that would be a great project for an accountability sprint, which would be to say, how do I put system resilience in my business so that I can onboard new members of staff, contractors, whatever have you, in a way which doesn't require everything kind of being translated from my brain to them in a way that is super risky. Yeah, that would be a great opportunity to add some system resilience into your business. So before we get into accountability sprints and how you're going to actually speed up progress in your business, I want to talk to you about something. I think this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned about going faster in business, is that, much like the 1,000 pots versus the one perfect pot, the 1,000 pots is working in a mindset which is, focusing on being directionally correct. So as long as you know where you want to go, as long as you know what the true objective is within your business for this thing that you're trying to make progress on, you can put things out at a much earlier stage, get more done, and move faster if you start to be okay with being directionally correct rather than it has to be 100% completely all, to the highest degree possible accurate and correct, which might be to say something around, let's say we're going to put out a new lead magnet, right? And the lead magnet is going to be delivered through a scorecard. And the directionally correct way to do this would be to say we have version 1 of the scorecard. We're just going to get that out, and it's probably not going to work. But it's okay, because we know we want to get 1,000 leads through this scorecard this year. But now at least we have a scorecard. Before we didn't. We've got something out the door really quick. Now we can improve the scorecard and make sure it works. Whereas those who are working for that perfect pot, those who are not working in this mindset of being just directionally correct is a good way to be. And I really can't say that word, so I'm going to have to come up with a new word for it. They would actually sit there and they would try to agonize over creating a scorecard that on day one, when they open the doors and release it, would be capable of getting those 1,000 leads in the door. That means they move much slower. That means they have a much bigger risk as well, because the one thing I've learned about putting these things in place in businesses is you're going to be wrong the first time you do anything. It's going to be a bit rubbish, right? So we just need you to start thinking of, what are you trying to make progress on, and what's the smallest thing that I can do that I can get out in the fastest way, shape, or form that will allow you to move in the direction you want, right? And the way you're going to start doing this is with something called hypothesis thinking, or hypothesis-based thinking. This is like a scientific type experiment that you're going to start running in your business. These are things that you're going to say, I want to achieve something, and this is how we're going to do it. So this is the structure of a great hypothesis. You need to know what result that you want. I would strongly suggest that the results map into one of these 3 areas here. That the result either gives you more customers, it either gives you more profit per customer or more profit over the lifetime of that customer, or it builds system resilience into your business. So you want to identify the result that you want. You then need to work backwards from that result, and you need to pin down an action that you can take to move you towards that result. So you're saying, if we want 1,000 customers through that Score app lead magnet, we think these actions, this action in particular, if taken consistently, will move us, will progress us to the point of achieving that result. And so then you say, if we do that Y, action Z will happen. And this is how you're actually going to move faster, because this removes all of the complexity and it boils down all of your objectives into simple, trackable, measurable actions that you can take consistently that should be 100% in your control. And this comes back to this mindset of progress, not growth, right? Because the growth you might want to see is, I want 1,000 scorecard leads in there, and so you create the scorecard and that doesn't happen. That can become super frustrating. And I've been there, because I've created scorecards that I thought was totally going to get me 1,000 leads a month. And then when it didn't happen, I got incredibly frustrated and almost, well, I gave up on the scorecard, saying that didn't work, that doesn't work for my business, because I was focused on growth, not progress. The progress focused mindset is very different. It says we want 1,000 leads in our scorecard, and we think that creating a scorecard and pushing it through, I don't know, let's say like making partnerships so that people distribute our scorecard through their newsletter for us. If we get that done 4 times a quarter, that will give us the amount of leads that we want per year, right? That's your hypothesis. And so then you can start to measure your progress against that hypothesis. And instead of throwing out the bigger, longer term objective when it doesn't work the first time, you can say, well, actually, maybe that wasn't the right action. Maybe we weren't doing the right things. Maybe this is just going to take a little bit longer. Maybe we need to improve something within here. And so that you're always focused on progress, not the end result. It's super important. So your superpower, the thing that you can really do to enable you to progress faster in your business, is shortening those action cycles. So shortening those ideas that you have, the hypotheses that you have, and saying, well, let's test that in a way that allows us to move faster. Because if you move faster, you'll get more iterations in your product or in that thing that you put into the world, right? So Gemma, I've seen that you've said there, you've created a scorecard yesterday, right? So if you were focused on the perfect scorecard, creating that as your progress that you want to make in your business, and you spend all of the time that's going to be required to make that a outstanding asset for your business, you might make the decision to do that, and 6 months later, you might have version 1 out of the door. I guarantee you version 1 is going to be crap. Version 1 will not do what you need it to do, because there's going to be gaps in your knowledge, gaps in your experience, all sorts of issues that maybe you're not aware of, that you're going to need direct experience in building and refining this thing to enable you to actually get it to a point where it's achieving the outcome that you want. Instead, I want you to think about this idea of shortening your action cycle, which would be to say, well, let's just get version 1 out. That's iteration 1. Let's get it out the door. I'm not happy with it. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm a little bit scared to show it because I don't think the wording's right. Maybe the design isn't great. Any other number of things. But you put it out there anyway because you're focused on progress, not growth, not outcomes. And when you get version 1 out of there, something's going to happen. Maybe you get 100 people that look at that scorecard. So you can see them visiting the scorecard, but no one puts their details in. And so iteration 2, you might just refine the copy and say, well, let's make it more compelling to put your details in. And in iteration 2, maybe you still get another 100 visits, but now 5 people put their details in. Great. We've made progress, and we can now use that progress to inform what we want to do for iteration 3. And it's been my experience, especially with things like lead magnets or things that we're doing to, attract an audience, get people's details so that we can start closing customers. It takes 3, 4, 5 versions of an asset that we're putting out there into the market to really start getting it to work. Unless you're a very experienced entrepreneur who's done this previously in other businesses and you're kind of taking that system and implementing it here, it's going to take you many iterations of that to get it really working. So make sure that you're shortening the cycles of the actions that you're taking so that you can do more iterations more quickly. Don't be the perfectionist. Go make the 1,000 pots, get more out the door, and learn from there. Because I had the exact same experience of launching things in our business, thinking this is going to solve the problem. This is going to give me all the progress all at once that I want to see in my business. And actually, that's where that impatience came from, and the frustration with not kind of being able to snap my fingers and have the growth that I'm hoping is going to come from whatever it is that we're doing. So I'm hoping that you're launching a scorecard because you're assuming that your hypothesis is that you are going to achieve growth in some way, shape, or form through doing that. And even if you'd have spent 6 months on doing that, I guarantee you the same thing would have happened. 1 or 2 people would have gone through it because you're going to have to learn. It's often nice to test these things with people who already have a bit of a know, like, and trust factor for you, because their tolerance for how bad something is that you put out is way higher than a complete stranger, right? A complete stranger to your brand and your business needs to see something that's maybe like iteration 3 onwards before they'll put their details in it, because it's not going to be speaking to their real needs and wants. It doesn't look super high quality. Maybe you're still learning how you speak about what the hell this thing is and the outcomes it gets, right? But your customers who have been on a call with you, and you can couch this as an experiment, and you can say, hey, this is super rough and ready. We've put this out. I'd love your feedback on it. And that's a really smart way to start moving towards iteration 2 and 3, because you're running this experimental mindset rather than this perfectionist mindset, and you're okay with things being a bit ropey. right? And you're able to then move forward, get feedback, make an iteration, and eventually the progress that you will be making in your business will compound on itself, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later as well. How do you do all of this from a practical standpoint, right? There's something that I came up with last year called these accountability sprints. This is something that we've been working with our clients on to help them make progress faster in their business, because we all have grand plans. Things get difficult, things go slightly wrong, or a new priority comes up, market has a bit of a hiccup, whatever it is, and then we stop, and then that's how we're at risk of this 6 months of very little progress being made within our business. We look at the halfway year review and we say, oh God, I haven't achieved any of the things that I set out to achieve this year. Again, going back to that frustration and impatience. So you need to be running sprints, and sprints is something that we work in the tech world for a very purposeful reason, right? We used to develop products where we would spend 1 to 2 years launching the new version of that software. And it just meant things were super slow, super expensive, and inevitably when it was launched, no one was very happy about it because we hadn't got people into feedback, we hadn't experienced problems and given ourselves the chance to make those iterations to improve something to the point in which it was really remarkable, right? So instead, this idea came about of running sprints, which is most commonly, can be longer, can be shorter, a 2-week period in which you have one of these ideas, you have one of these hypotheses, and you say, okay, in the next 2 weeks, this is what I want to achieve in my business. This is what we're going to do. If we want result X, we think if we do action Y, then Z will happen. And so here's what I want you guys to be doing in your businesses. And if you can do this every 2 weeks, you will make more progress more quickly in your business than you will believe, right? It will really start to kick things into a high gear here. So I want you to come up with an idea of a way to achieve a result that you want and make that idea action-based. You're going to set a 2-week limit on this accountability sprint, and then you're going to proceed to try and do that thing. Try and take those actions, create that asset for your business. You're then going to hit hurdles. This is absolutely natural. You're going to maybe not understand how to do something. Maybe customers don't do what you think they're going to do. Maybe no one values it in the way that you think they're going to do. There's going to be problems somewhere in achieving this outcome that you want. So then you need to, once you start hitting those problems, you need to start diagnosing what those problems are. So Gemma, if we go back to your scorecard idea, you've hit the hurdle. You've hit the hurdle of now that you have a scorecard, but no one's taking it. So what is stopping those people from taking your scorecard? You need a new hypothesis, or you need to diagnose with data or research or insights or know-how and learning that you find from other people who are doing this successfully. You diagnose what you think your problems are. You course correct based on that, and you say, okay, we're going to tweak the actions slightly, we're going to tweak the hypothesis slightly, and that will lead to growth. It will lead to the next iteration. It will lead to maybe now 5 people take it, but they kind of know you, so we now need to get it to the point where strangers will take it, right? And you just rinse and repeat this every 2 weeks. This is what I want to achieve. This is what we're going to do. These are the problems we're going to hit, or we are hitting, to review it, course correct, grow. And if you were to zoom out on this diagram across the space of an entire year, this would look like a lot of stacked sprints on top of each other in a spiral upwards, right? That you're going to have these ideas, you're going to hit problems, it's going to get difficult, you're not going to want to push through those problems, but if you do, you will get growth on the other side, you will get progress on the other side of that. But the reason it's called accountability sprints is, most of you, if you do this on your own without help, without someone to hold you accountable, will hit the hurdles in point 2, and you will give up. You will change tact. You will find the new shiny object, and you'll go and do that instead. So instead of doing the hard work, rolling up your sleeves and getting to iteration 2, 3, 4, 5, iteration 20 plus, you'll actually just change tact completely, and that's going to majorly slow the progress down within your business, majorly. So you need someone it can be someone within your business, but what we find is it's better when they're not in your business, because they can basically hold you to account. They can call you on your bullshit, right? They can say to you when you're not doing the thing that you said you were going to do, to make you push through the hurdles so that you can get to the progress on the other side. So Danielle, you said, I've been through a very painful month of putting ugly things under people's noses, but it's making my next version better and better every time. Yeah, I think you did something really interesting that you showed me last Friday, right, Danielle, which you said, I've been showing this landing page to people and getting people's input. Then you took screenshots of their responses, and I said, well, that could be your next version, right? You could add those responses into the landing pages, which kind of work a little bit like testimonials. But then through having that conversation, having the idea that adding testimonials to the page would be a great idea to make progress, to make it more compelling so that maybe more people would put their contact details into that landing page, you hit a hurdle in that you were uncomfortable of just adding their quotes to the page without their permission. So we diagnosed that together, and actually you diagnosed it yourself and said, I'm just going to ask them. You asked them for those testimonials, so you course corrected, and now you have people's names and faces with those testimonials that you could put on that landing page, which I believe will lead to some, even if only small, some growth in your business, because you've now become a more believable business with the results that you've got for people, right? That's kind of how this plays out. But if you just try to do the perfectionist thing and create an amazing product and service in secret from the get-go, you'd have never had those conversations with customers, you'd have never got the feedback, you could have never asked for the testimonials or to add their names and faces to your site, you wouldn't have leveled up the credibility of what you're doing, and therefore progress is slowed. So lean into the hurdles, because the hurdles are the things that will force you to make progress. These are the things that will actually be, you'll start to relish hitting the hurdles, because when you hit the hurdle, it means you're making progress. You don't grow without pain, and you don't grow without creating mess and chaos in your business. So the hurdles are a sign that you are alive and well, and you're doing the right things. If you are totally comfortable in what you're doing in your business right now, if you think you're fully in control, if you have no problems, I would actually be very worried about your business, because I would say, well, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're probably on the way to declining, right? So I want to give you a bit of an example of like how we do this in our business, because I've told you about a 2-week accountability sprint there. It doesn't mean that the objective that or the hypothesis that you have has to be achievable in 2 weeks. You can run many sprints on a bigger idea. And in fact, I would encourage you to do so. So our hypothesis is, if we become known, liked, and trusted by 10,000 people, we will sell enough of our minimal viable product build projects to hit a 400,000 a year turnover rate that I'm not going to go into here, but we want to hit, so that we can up the gross profit per employee, pay everyone really well, get great results for our customers, and minimize the amount of customers that we have to deal with per year, right? That's our hypothesis, is that if we get 10,000 people to know, like, and trust us, a tiny percentage of them will actually buy our stuff. And that tiny percentage is way more than we have capacity to fill. So we will be able to charge a lot of money for that, because we will become an oversubscribed business. That's really the hypothesis of what we're working towards. We've created a set of actions that we're going to take. You're in one of them right now. So we've decided to launch weekly lunch and learn sessions. I said, let's just invite everyone who knows us, deliver great value each week, hopefully, record it, post it to YouTube, cut it into small content snippets and share across all of our social channels, and then rinse and repeat. Invite everyone I'm introduced to the group, grow it, start the snowball rolling down the hill, right? And that is all we're doing. Now, our full plan is obviously lots more actions than what I've just shown you there, but really, that's it. And if any of you have been involved in this group from the start, you know iteration 1 was me basically sending out a calendar invite that didn't even have a call link in it, and we had loads of people who couldn't join the call. But we had people that joined the Facebook group, so I knew there was some kind of interest there. Iteration 2, we started to have my VA start doing emails to you all to tell you the calls, to make sure you've got the call link. You know, we started iteration 3, started to play around with upping the quality of the recordings, buying a proper microphone, all of this kind of stuff. If I'm trying to make the perfect community from the start, it's never going to happen. This is a long objective that in each 2-week cycle, we're analyzing what the actions are we need to take, we're holding ourselves accountable to them, and we're measuring what happens and what do we need to change, what do we need to add, what do we need to take away, what do we need to improve, what hurdles are we hitting, and those hurdles are the things that are giving us the ideas for improvement consistently and constantly. So, before I go on to this very strong slide that we're about to get onto, does anyone have any questions about how they could run their own accountability sprints, how you might start implementing this into your business, right? This would deliver on the promise of the talk is you can spend 6 months perfecting something and maybe you get lucky and it was perfect when you launched it, or you could launch something every single 2 weeks in your business for the next 6 months. I know which business in those two scenarios would have made more progress. But does anyone have questions? So Daniel says, is each sprint a version of the last? I would say it doesn't have to be no, but this is why I prefer you having bigger objectives that you're sprinting against, right? So ours is get to this 10,000 people number who know, like, and trust us. That allows me to change the actions that we have in each sprint quite dramatically sometimes, but it's all working in the same direction. And in one of our earlier talks that we did in these lunch and learn sessions, we talked about what strategy is and great strategy. And one of the things that we talked about is really important is focus, right? So your sprints don't need to be consecutive in terms of, hey, it immediately follows on. But if it's all building towards the same large objective, same large piece of progress that you want to make, I think it's much more effective. To use the terminology from the software development world, we would have something called initiatives. And initiatives were things that we were thinking were going to take us 1 to 2 years to do, right? They were going to be really big, long pieces of work. And instead of just trying to tackle that with a team for 2 years, we broke that initiative down into sprints, and we made sure that we made progress towards achieving that initiative every 2 weeks, come hell or high water, right? And you can get into this mindset of just ship it. So if at the end of the 2 weeks your scorecard's not ready, just set it live, because the embarrassment of that thing not being as good as you want it to be should drive you in the next sprint to improve it enough to start seeing that progress within your business.
My question is, I need to work on number 1 and 3. Do you prioritize one of those and work on it, or can you work on both of them and do sprints for both?
2 birds with 1 stone, I think, is always more sensible when you can do it. But if that becomes very difficult for you to work out how to do, just make progress onto the one that's more immediately pressing, right? Which is, I would say, if your progress you want to make is more customers, and the simplest way for you to do that in the next 2 weeks might be just to say, we think our action is if I reach out to 10 people a day on LinkedIn, I will get 1 new customer. That might be your first sprint. That's only speaking to that objective 1, and it's not really a system. So it has huge systematic risks, because if you get busy, you close a new client, you get taken away from being able to do those outreach messages, you haven't addressed that systematic systems risk within your business. So you can challenge yourself within the sprint to work smarter. This would be a way to also increase the progress you're seeing, accelerate the progress you're seeing in your business, in which you might say, well, this sprint, I could do the 10 messages a day, but how about actually I hire someone to do the 10 messages for me, right? And that's the sprint I'm going to make. That would be working more towards that two birds with one stone mindset. I'm going to give you a warning though, especially if you're earlier stage in your business. Trying to be too clever too quickly is a recipe for you not making any progress, because you will be paralyzed by your overthinking. So I would always start to make progress in the way that has the least resistance for you. First and foremost, start to make progress towards that objective, and then use the resources that progress gets you. Hopefully people are paying you for what you do, to build systems behind you and then automate your way out of that process, or buy tools that make it faster, cheaper, or more effective, whatever. So start simple, get more complex as you get more advanced within your business. So I think this is why it's really important to put a time limit on this work. I always forget the name of the guy. It's either Parkinson or Pratt, but one of those two guys. Essentially, any goal that you set or any time limit you set for achieving something will be filled by whatever you do, right? So if you set 2 weeks, it's going to take you to launch your scorecard. It's going to take you 2 weeks to launch your scorecard. And this is where Elon Musk kind of comes in, where he sets ridiculous objectives for achieving things, and yeah, they missed them, but instead of launching their new kind of rocket within a 15-year period, which old space companies would be doing, yeah, they did it in 5. He said it was going to be done in 1. Who really cares, right? So Parkinson's law, that's it, Ollie, you know. So when you're chunking, think about what you can achieve within that time period, and keep the time period short enough that it allows you to make that progress and see results and iterations quickly, rather than, hey, I'm going to do this for the next quarter. Like, I hate quarterly objectives because a quarter feels like an absolute lifetime in a business to me. I think 2 weeks is a good place to start. I know some companies that run sprints in 6 weeks because it allows them to deliver more, but they have bigger teams, and so they're delivering more complex pieces of work. You also want to, when you're chunking, think about what's deliverable as a whole object. You don't want to get to like the 2 weeks end and say, there was no chance of ever having completed a version of this. So version 1 might be very simple, but it's a version. It's a whole complete thing. Don't try and chunk and leave yourself halfway through a project within a sprint. I think it's much more sane and sensible to say, I'm going to deliver less, but it's kind of, at least it's complete in some sense, so that my next version can be the next complete version of that. So thinking about frustration in terms of growth, progress within your business, setting big goals is not the objective with this, what I'm talking to you about today. Like, we've pulled a £400,000 goal for our revenue out of the air, right? There's some thinking behind it, but just having the £400,000 turnover goal does not make it happen. Does not make it happen. And what I want to say is, you having big goals doesn't make this stuff magically happen. You have to take the actions that are required for you to achieve those goals. You have to make the iterations, do the sprints, keep the progress going that's required to achieve those goals. So yeah, have a big goal, but it has to go further than that. And if you're not if you're not working backwards from those goals and working out achievable actions that you can execute on within that sprint cycle process, you're going to get to the point where you're at the end of the year and you go, yeah, I've had a big goal, but I'm nowhere near achieving it. And some of the people I know who do, like, who make the least progress in their business have the biggest, most crazy, audacious goals I've ever seen. And they kind of get worked up in this mindset of just setting bigger and bigger goals is the object. It's not. It's about taking action. Your goals don't really matter. The progress is what matters. You being a little bit better every 2 weeks at what you're doing is what matters, and ultimately what will help you achieve those goals. Your progress will compound over time. So this talks back to that point I had earlier, in which I was saying, if you are impatient, if you are frustrated with the progress in your business, it may just be that you're at the start of this compounding cycle here. You know, let's think back to the 10,000 person goal that we've got. Most of that objective will be achieved in the last few months of its time frame, right? When we're adding many more people to our group and suddenly many more people become aware of what we're doing. It won't be achieved right now, where we're still only a group of 35 of us within this group, right? That's 35 people is not going to get us to that 400,000 number. It's not going to happen in the next 6 months. It probably isn't going to happen in the next 12 months either. But everything that we're doing now is building the base foundations of progress that your next sprints start to compound onto. When you push through and do iteration 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, that compounds, and that's what gives you wild progress. And I've just been very guilty of looking at how fast other people have gone in my mind and getting really frustrated with that, but not seeing, you know, the stuff right down here at the start of their journey, because that was all done in private and it was invisible, right? So if you're frustrated right now and want to grow faster, give yourself a break and just know that the stuff that you're doing is building the foundation for you to compound that progress into the future, and the progress will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then lastly, but not least, is I'm talking to you about setting up a process here in which, you know, every 2 weeks you're setting actions, you're doing things, you're making progress. Real talk though, sometimes life gets a little bit in the way of you making progress in your business. Sometimes really crap things happen in your business. That means you have to stop the sprint process. You have to pare back your plans. You have to focus on just surviving rather than thriving, right? And so that's okay. Like, that's actually okay. Give yourself permission sometimes to be knocked down, but the real skill and real key is get back on the horse. Don't forget about this sprint methodology, this sprint mindset, in which you can say, okay, things have cleaned up a little bit now. I've got a bit more time to really start focusing on running these experiments again. I'm going to get back on the horse. I'm going to start running the sprints again. I'm going to get those results. So don't beat yourself up if you look back over the last 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, and you haven't made the progress you've wanted. Sometimes that's just how business goes. So it's all about risk tolerance from you, right? Firstly, you said something there that I think is really important to pick up on. You don't need accreditation for anything. You're not doing brain surgery. No one's going to die if their VA business fails, unfortunately. Fortunately, is what I mean. You're not in a regulated, this advice only counts for things that are not regulated and don't have legal obligations attached to them. It's, at the end of the day, it's a VA business. If they buy a course and it doesn't work, you give them their money back, right? That's okay. If you try to get the certifications for everything before you make that progress, you'll never launch the course, right? You're never going to launch the course. So be smarter. If you like, the really smart people I know actually just create the landing page for the course and sell the wait list for it before they even create it, right? Because why would you spend all of the time writing a course you don't know you can sell? That's 6 months of progress out the window. That's being the person trying to make the one perfect pot, right? Because you're relying on luck at that point. Like, you could get lucky and just create a masterpiece, but prolific beats perfect. And I have launched so many websites for companies, and still when we create websites, I know that I want to create our process to enable us to have 5, 6 different iterations of that website before I'm happy with it, right? And so create the iterations. Iteration number 1 is the waitlist. Can you create a waitlist landing page that's super simple that gets one person to sign up? If you can do that, could you then put an ad behind it and get 10 people to sign up? If you get 10 people to sign up, go and create the first 2 modules. Will they now buy that? And if they then buy that, go and create the rest of it in an absolute panic and make sure that you can deliver it before the course launch date, right? I know so many people that launch that kind of stuff in that way. But you have to get over this mindset of you don't need a certificate. Like, you don't need permission from anyone. The market will tell you whether what you've done is good or whether it's absolute shit. So Daniel Priestley, I'm reading a lot of his books at the minute. So he talks about this idea of marketing for signals instead of sales. So I want you to go look up what he talks about there, because he'll say it way, way better than I can. But essentially the idea is you're just trying to sell the next step, right? Sell the sign up to the wait list. Don't sell the course. Let people in, or don't even sell the sign up. First things first, your iteration 1 is putting a message in your group and saying, if we created this, would you be interested? Yes or no? Poll vote. If you get loads of yeses, then create the waitlist. If you get waitlist signups, then create the course, etc., etc. But go look up Daniel Priestley's Market for Signals, not Sales, because I think this will help you with your iterations of iteration 1 is not the product. It's the indication of interest for the product. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming and listening to, I think this is our 5th session now, which is really exciting. We're thinking about adding maybe like a more open discussion session on a Friday. I'm thinking of calling it something like Founders Therapy or something. I like this, I love doing the presentations, but I love doing the answering your questions as well. And so that would be an opportunity for you guys to jump on and just ask me questions with anything that's going on in your business. Would people be interested in that at all? Yeah, Ollie? Yeah. Look at that, marketing for signals, not sales. So yeah, okay, cool. I will speak with Sophie and Jack around how we might do that. There might be a poll in the Facebook group around some times and dates for that session as well. So thank you very much, guys. I'll post the recording for this up as soon as it's ready, and really appreciate you all being here once again. Have a great week.